Hello, MAHU. My name is Andy Waite, current MAHU president.
Back on the 22nd of September, Chad Levis was gracious enough to put together a webinar specifically focused on MAHU website resources and overall the benefits of being a MAHU member. So with that said, we want to make that recording available to you and then also bookend it with the second part of the webinar, which was having Tim Wilkin's undivided attention for 30 minutes. And so it's great stuff. Please sit back and enjoy it. And we look forward to doing more events like this in the future.
Okay. We can all see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. So anyway, as Andy said, I'm Chad Levis. I've been with MAHU now for about 3 or 4 years. And this was kind of an exciting one. Andy and I are both in agreement. This is a good one to have because there's a lot of resources I think are underutilized by a lot of the members. And just by being here today, you might pick a thing or two up that you didn't know before, even if you've been a member for a few decades. And on top of that, you may have something even to share when we go to Q&A that I didn't know about. So I'm kind of excited to be a part of this today. I personally use the MAHU website about maybe once or twice a week. And I'm going to show you one little thing that I've actually used that is kind of a no-brainer. And it essentially has paid for my membership for the last 2-3 years. So that said, I'm just going to kind of go linearly, kind of column by column in here. So on the landing page right now, it's election season. Tim's going to take, I'm not going to steal any of his thunder. There's a lot of good stuff on there right now. If you scroll down just a little bit, they're kind of talking about member benefits. And depending on your school of thought, there's a lot of good stuff in here. So if you are looking for, like on the technology side, maybe you're looking for a CRM system. A lot of these places give you discounts. Like so, self-insured reporting, ACA required. Benefit Express is a pretty popular. They attend all of the pretty much all the conferences. I see them everywhere. So there are a lot of good resources in here. Xywave has been on here, as you can see, since 2017. A lot of folks that are in benefits use Xywave, or if you're thinking about it, I mean, they probably give a discount in here. So good spot to start there for technology. Okay. In the business and personal services, I have not used any of these yet, but evidently there's discounts in here. Office Depot has a pretty big discount for a few of their products. Allied Mail, if you're upgrading or downsizing your office space, they can help you there as well. So Hertz if you travel quite a bit. And that part I didn't even know until I was researching for this project. And like I said, I'm in here about twice a week. Okay. Now this one's kind of interesting. So professional development. If there's Insurance CE. And I actually found this earlier this year, the certification for long-term care, because that's kind of a growth area for my agency. And I'd been in it for, again, about 4 or 5 years, but I found this and there's a nice little discount for the program. I think I saved about $50 just by clicking through, enrolling in the CLTC program, just by using the NAHU discount. So that was kind of helpful. I enjoyed that and it worked out nicely, okay? Let's see here. So we kind of went through this here. All right. So a lot of good information there. I use this also, again, I don't look at this very often at all, but you can take a look at your own account. If you're worrying about your billing and need to change your billing, it's all kind of right here. Or if you move your office location, you need to update it. Your practice areas, which I'll get to that in just a second. But that's, as opposed to ever having to call the 202 number, which it's pretty much right now due to COVID-19, a dedicated voicemail, you can actually do everything pretty much online, okay? Now, one thing that, as I mentioned a moment ago, finding an agent, to me, is a huge tool, and it's a two-way tool. So I've actually personally, the last 2 years, and hopefully it'll be this way this fall as well, my membership has pretty much been paid for by having a pretty good profile on the Find an Agent. Okay, I've referred maybe 2-3 people per year, clients of mine or just contacts. Hey, I'm moving from here to Utah. Okay, I don't know anybody in Utah personally, but I can sound like I do. Got a great contact out there. So we use this as a networking tool. Find an agent, and I'll just kind of put the zip code that my office is in. Okay, There's 3 agents in this zip code. And typically the public, I believe, has access to it, but the public won't find this. It's going to be other brokers who are the 15,000 members of NAHU that will use this. Okay. So right here, in this particular iteration, I got the higher ranking, but that could be, it changes probably every time. But you can download a V card. All my contact info is in there. If you have a certain practice area, if you're really big in employee benefits, for example, you want to note this as a practice specialty, or if you're a Medicare person, people go from state to state, they transfer. Like I said, I've gotten about 2 referrals per year. It's not paying all the bills, but it's paying for the membership. That alone is a thing. If you're not really active as far as your profile with NAHU, that's a big thing I would recommend for anybody. Okay, so there's that. If you want to see this changes obviously every year, the board of trustees. Okay, it's kind of nice to see. And if you're looking for, if you're on the board and you want to see get you to contact a board member or the president of a different chapter, this is kind of where you check everything out. A nice little search tool here as well. Okay.
Chad, can I interrupt right here?
Yes, sir.
So one thing I want to note is, as you guys are all aware, as other states are opening up around us, depending on what happens, with us, there are going to be some in-person CE opportunities in other states. And so that is one place that you can link to, Iowa or Nebraska. And if you're willing to travel, you could not only meet other MAHU members, but potentially attend meetings in person as well, if that's something you desire to do. Right.
And we'll get to the events thing in a moment too. I'll show you some kind of neat things if you haven't been to it in quite a while. So, and this next column, advocacy, kind of gets into Tim's wheelhouse. You can take a look at some of the current legislative issues and everything else. I'm not going to steal any of Tim's thunder, but there is, if you really want to kind of do a deep dive, and it's not quite exhaustive, but it is extensive information on the issues that NAHU supports and what they advocate for. This is a really good spot for it. If you want to do talking points, maybe you're going to meet with a client that has a certain position on something, and you can actually do a little bit of research here. It's a good spot to do it, and so that's kind of good. HUPAC, the Health Underwriters Political Action Committee, is right here. A link to the website. If you want to get more involved, to kind of see where your dollars are going, it's a good link there. And then lastly, this is kind of neat, Operation Shout. We haven't done much of it this year due to COVID, but I think NAHU played a pivotal role in this whole Medicare for All thing about a year and a half ago. And how cool is this? When they had this Operation Shout, kind of a grassroots get after it here, all you have to do is click here, put your information and hit submit, and a letter goes to your lawmakers based on your address that you put in on your profile. Pretty neat stuff, super easy, and it's right there at your fingertips. Okay. Moving over, and also if anyone has any questions, I know we save a lot of them for the end, but if something that, hey, stop, I have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask. But over at the professional development, depending on where you are in your career, you may look for a professional designation. So right now, this used to be owned by the American College, the Registered Employee Benefits designation. That's kind of an all-encompassing designation. It used to have the Registered Health Underwriter if you're more in the individual or Medicare market. REBC is more for benefits. They kind of combined the two, and they just use the REBC for pretty much everything. And like I said, it's now owned by NAHU. Curriculum, it's a 7-course curriculum you can kind of go through, and you don't need to be enrolled in the actual program to take one of these courses if you're interested. So maybe you want to get really kind of boned up on if this individual health insurance, which is big on the Affordable Care Act, has a lot of that stuff in here. So I took it a couple of years ago. It was pretty relevant information, and that's kind of why I jumped at it. And versus maybe SEEDS, I wanted to support NAHU. That's why I picked REBC. Okay. A lot of course offerings are available as well. basically you complete one, they give you a certification certificate for completing the course. So whether it's you're in the self-funded area, it's a good way to stand up just a little bit. They have an ethics course, which is it's very expensive, but it's available. All right, and a lot of this is administered by the Online Learning Institute. So you can actually take a look at what courses you've taken. Oops, what do we got here? View a transcript or whatever else, you know. So it's this is kind of where you check everything out. So your credit tracking, designations, etc. So it's a pretty good source. And I have not been in here recently, but you can even maintain it. Let's say if you have a designation through the NAHU, you can track the maintenance of it because you have to do continuing ed every couple of years to maintain your credentials and things like that. This is a good spot for that. Okay. See here, down here, Career Center. Okay, so I mean, basically, if you wanted to take a look, there's even job postings for your agency. So if you're looking to hire someone, this might be a good, if it requires a certain specialty, for example, this might be, we just did it, the meeting last week was all about ICRA. Not a lot of us are experts in that area. Maybe you need someone. This might be a good spot to post if you're looking for someone just outside the Twin Cities. But a lot of job postings are here, all right?
Chad, if I could comment on that.
Yeah.
I know for a lot of us that have small firms, our only real option are, kind of like the major websites. I don't want to say Craigslist, but I think we've all been guilty of doing something like that. Great place to post your jobs, and you're gonna get qualified candidates. And the cool thing, one of the good things with COVID is if you have the ability for remote work, the entire country is now open to you for candidates. And so it's a lot of people are checking out this website.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. So yeah, so there's a lot of good developmental things, even like, running your business. I didn't see a whole lot there now, but in the past, there's a lot of people that will network with you, so if you're looking, again, it all depends on what part of your career you are, so if you're kind of on the upswing, it might be a good place to go, or maybe you're on the 17th or 18th hole of your career, you want to get back a little bit. Okay, there's a lot of good networking opportunities here. And then, so that's going to transition me over into events, where this is a pretty good place to, I mean, this is where I go to maybe 50% of the time when I log in to see what's going on. And I can't give feedback yet, but I did register for this NAHU Power Hour. So it's basically a Zoom meeting, and we're going to be doing one-on-one networking with other members from across the country. And like I said, this could be just whether you're looking to maybe do some little business development, or you just want to network with people. And there's experience levels of all kinds in this Zoom meeting alone. And maybe you want to give back. Maybe you want to help someone or talk to someone about business succession. Perhaps you've been an agent for 35 years and, what's my business worth? I need to sell at some point. Or maybe you just want to mentor someone. I'm not sure, but this is a good spot to go to. So I'm going to check this out. And then there's other webinars. There's Medicare, Medicare conferences in other states. We don't do that in Minnesota, at least not yet, or not today. But there's a lot of good stuff in here. And then, of course, the CapCon and the annual meetings are all in here as well. So, like, kind of scrolling down, Capital Conference and everything else. This usually has several more meetings than are in there right now, but clearly we're in a COVID environment. So there's just a lot, because there's a lot of uncertainty out there, but this is kind of nice. And then if you want to actually, check it out, you can actually filter it down by what you're looking for. So, hey, I'm looking for Medicare summits. Maybe it's in the summertime. I'll take a road trip somewhere. So Indiana appears to be the go-getter right now, and they're planning for one next April. There's usually several more states in here at the same time. Okay. So leadership training, nothing right now. Okay. Certification course, there's usually plenty more. Next summer's annual convention, if it does happen face-to-face, it will be in New Orleans. You can read more about it. And when the registration link comes available, you can even click on that. So that's, I mean, this is kind of where you stay up to date on what's happening typically. And then over here with resources, we went through the member benefits already. And for a lot of folks, if you're kind of on the career upswing, this is a good one, Leading Producers Roundtable. And a lot of this is kind of, to me, an maybe underreported or underutilized way to recognize yourself. And I know, like, before I launched my agency just under 5 years ago, I always relied on the big company to pat me on the back and do my promotion for me if I did well or if they wanted to promote something. And as a, I'm no longer a solopreneur, but as a very small agency owner, if I'm not going to promote myself, no one else is going to. So I found this a pretty good way to basically tell people, potential clients that, hey, this guy, he's pretty serious about what he does, and he appreciates his clients and everything else. And there's even press releases and things like that. And then, if you want to see who your peers are. But if you're, again, especially if you're on the upswing, I recommend at least taking a look at it. It's not for everyone necessarily, but that's a good resource to kind of give yourself some name recognition. Okay. Long-term care. I'm not sure how many of you are in the long-term care space, but there's some very good resources here as well. Okay. And if anyone is in long-term care, you don't have to go through NAHU to find this, but this is the easiest way to find it for a lot of folks. This tool right here is huge if you're in long-term care, or if you know nothing about long-term care, but you just want to have a quick chat with someone. What does it cost, the cost of care, okay? So we'll just kind of put the zip code for my office, monthly. And let's say if I'm speaking to a 50-year-old person, chances are 80 is a good age for them to be thinking about when they would likely need care. And then it's that fast. It's that fast. So today, a private room in a nursing home, the average cost in the Southwest Metro is about $8,500 per month. That's very average. In 30 years, that's going to be $20,000 per month. Near $250,000 per year in 30 years. So if your clients, if people are in the financial space and they're all about dollars in and dollars out, this needs to be part of the conversation. And think if it's a married couple, double that. Okay. In-home care is roughly half the cost. But again, this is just a huge tool right at your fingertips via link at NAHU. Again, I think this is, for long-term care, one of the best tools that you can have. Doesn't cost anything. Okay. Medicare space. Again, this kind of gets into a lot of policy and things like that. There's a brochure, but there's a lot of that out there. Links to Medicare summits, and so from a compliance standpoint, what's the latest and greatest? Legislative information. Things do change subtly year over year in the Medicare space. And I do know some Medicare people on this call. Okay. And I'm not sure if you know this, NAHU came out in the last year with a Medicare certification to go into direct competition with, say, AHIP or Pinpoint. They'll get there, but right now, not all carriers are accepting the NAHU certification. But if you want to just take a look at it, it's worth maybe considering. I took a look at it this year. I passed on it because a few carriers that I work with do not accept, but it will get better and better over time. But that's a growth area for the association. Okay. And then for those who are on the board, there's chapter leadership resources, leadership reports. If you kind of want to see who's hitting the cover off the ball, not only within our chapter, but nationwide, it's there. Award recognition, and then other things like that. So, but the biggest thing for me, like I said, is good, for professional development. They're doing a lot of good stuff for us. Some people are using it, some are not. And again, that broker to broker find an agent thing is, to me, it was, again, it's paid for my membership for 2 years. So that being said, I know we're getting about 20 minutes into this presentation. So I'd like to open the floor up a little bit and see if anyone has questions that either Andy or myself can answer for you. And don't everyone jump in at once.
Quite a talkative group. Well, hearing none, I guess, Chad, thank you for doing that. And I just would encourage everybody to look on here because there is so much more than we, could go through.
Right.
And I mean, there's some really good stuff,
It's
especially as
very, very high level stuff at this point. And also, if anyone's, hey, I'm just a little bit shy, call me offline. That's kind of what we're here for, to help each other out. So
with that said, let's bring Tim on. I see him here already. I talked to him earlier in a t-shirt, so he put on a button up just for you guys. Chad, if you could just make him the host, we'll get started.
absolutely, it's just right
Thanks,
here.
Chad.
Okay, let's see.
Then Chad, if you could stop sharing, please.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Tim, you are the host, and I am stop sharing. Okay.
Yep. Okay. Gonna share my screen here with everybody. Let me know if you can see that. Now can you see it?
We can. Looks beautiful.
Okay. So just kind of scratching my head trying to figure out what's going on in the world, because it's been kind of quiet lately. That's a joke. Just so much going on here. Just wanted to kind of distill it down. What is affecting our lives? What is affecting the industry? What your future will look like? So we're going to talk about legislative stuff. We're going to talk about elections. This is what the current lay of the land looks like. And usually at this point, it wouldn't be relevant to anything because we're in the fall of an election year, but there will be, before the election, there will be one, maybe two special sessions between now and then, unless the governor suddenly decides not to advance his or continue the state of emergency. The other special session that could happen would be really any time if they come up with a deal on a bonding bill and some tax provisions. That was going to be, they're looking at around today. Obviously that didn't happen. They're having trouble getting, with a bonding bill, you need supermajority, so they got to get the minority caucuses on board, which they have failed to do so far. So current lay of the land, DFL has 75 votes in the House. They control it by a pretty good margin. Republicans need to pick up 9 seats to get to the magic number of 68 in this election to take over the House. So that's a bit of an uphill climb. Over in the Senate, you need 34 seats. Republicans came out of the last election with 34 seats. They got to 35, if you remember, because Tony Laurie, who was a senator, DFL senator, was appointed to be DHS commissioner. They thought they'd hold that seat. Republicans picked up that extra vote, which is really important. You don't want to have a 1-vote margin, because that means everybody in the majority party then has a veto vote, and it gets really hard to pass things. So once you neutralize the people like that are willing to hold up the caucus, things go through a lot easier. Looking at what it'll be next year. So you got the Senate just needs to flip a couple votes to take over. Theoretically, if they hold the House, they pick up the DFL or the Senate, and they got the governor, they got everything, so they can pass their wish list. Let's look at the budget here and what's going on fiscally with the state. This was one of the most interesting things, is the Commissioner of Minnesota Management and Budget retired from service to the state and went over to the U of M. The governor hired Jim Showalter to be the Commissioner of Minnesota Management and Budget. He was there before under Governor Dayton and was budget director under Governor Pawlenty. So kind of middle of the road guy, very smart, very thoughtful. He had been the head of the Council of Health Plans for several years. Again, really good guy. We worked with him and his team. Then he left and worked for, in between that time and now, he's been working for Health Partners and is now back with the state. Bad news first on the budget. There is a projection out there, and it's not a super firm projection, but that the state will be facing a $4.5 billion deficit in the next biennium. So they'll be looking for revenues and savings, some combination of the two, and that really depends on who gets elected in November. You can guess which side's looking at the revenue and which side's looking at the savings. I won't go into that much. To give you an idea of how big this deficit is, that's about the same deficit that Governor Pawlenty faced when he entered office in 2003. He called it the big honkin' budget deficit. The budget's roughly double what it was back then. And so, that's about half the size of the budget deficit that was there then, if you look at it in more terms of proportion of the entire budget. Current budget is in a deficit, a couple $2 billion. There's a couple $2 billion also, about 2.5 billion in reserves, which would cover that. We'll show you some more information. The good news is we're running ahead of the projections from May. And this chart here shows you what the revenue collections were for August. $202 million in collections above the May projections. If you're a budget nerd with the Minnesota budget, you know that February was the last normal forecast. They did, because of the pandemic, how that was hitting the state, they did a projection in May, which gave us a $4.5 billion projection. This just shows we're running ahead. The receipts are now 2.9 billion more than projected, which is really good news. So hopefully that keeps going. Looking at some issues that we're going to be facing coming forward, reinsurance, they're going to have to consider reinsurance again next year. It is funded and approved for 2021 and maybe 22. There's one more year of reinsurance that the federal waiver makes us eligible for. And there is apparently plenty of money in the pool of money that they allocated for this. They've been burning up a lot of the federal money. So we're in good shape to do this, but there are issues with it. This is just a little more information. These are slides you've seen before. This is a little bit about what the program looks like. It was projected to save 20% on premiums. That's exactly what it did. The plan said it would, the Commerce Department said it would, and it did. And then this is what it looks like. MCHA board administers it. The attachment point's 50,000. So as soon as plans pay up $50,000, then it kicks in. There's co-insurance at 80%, and then there's a cap at 250,000. So it does incent the health plans to manage the claims and not just stop working because we're on the government's dime now. And they've been doing a really good job. So again, no funds are needed. There was a hit to the BHP in federal money, and the Walz administration and the DFL don't like that. So they have other proposals out there. Walz would like to do a 20% premium subsidy instead of reinsurance. That would basically, this is where it really affects our members. Their proposal would have everything in that marketplace, the individual marketplace, would have to go through MNsure to be eligible for the premium subsidy. So that's a way for them to goose the budget for MNsure very significantly. because all the stuff that's in the individual market right now outside of MNsure would then have to go through MNsure in order to get that 25% premium subsidy, which they do claim would have the same effect. I think that is yet to be seen, and you would probably, there'd be risk involved in them moving to that. He also proposed a state-based premium tax credits to go along with that. That would be credit equal, get people equal to the lowest silver plan. Someone needs to mute if you wouldn't mind. Other health reforms, the OneCare proposal by the governor, that will probably be back if they're in control. If it's a full DFL control, this basically sets up a insurance company run by the state. It's a QHP that would compete directly head to head with the private carriers. That would have a 90% actuarial value. It would include dental, vision, and mental health. The key is it uses Medicare rates. So who couldn't knock the socks off of their competitor if they're able to use a rate that's 100% of Medicare versus the 187% of Medicare that the commercial carriers pay. So easy way to win is put your finger on the scale and make your product extra cheap by underpaying providers. So this is a big problem. It's also capitalized with taxpayer money. Again, everything's sold through MNsure. So as your client starts seeing, that this OneCare product comes in cheaper than Blue Cross, Health Partners, Medica, everything that's out there on the street, they'll start going to that. And our other concern is that the small group market would be eroded too, as that product's out there and it's cheaper and there's no penalties for small businesses to drop their coverage. So there's a lot of problems with that. That's the impact that I mentioned. Cuts to providers would be really significant. I would expect them to get highly active. The hospitals came out against the proposal. I was a little surprised the clinic managers weren't more active on that because they're the ones that are going to have to bear the brunt of, going and knocking on the doctor's door and saying, by the way, we're gonna cut your reimbursements by about, it was somewhere in the 40 to 45% area, I think, when you run the numbers on that. And I don't think a lot of doctors are going to appreciate that. So hopefully the clinic managers get active on that if it becomes an issue. We're going to see a lot of employer mandates. These are the ones that were pushed in this prior prior two sessions. Paid family and medical leave. That is basically, we'll get into more details, but that's a big threat to short-term disability. There's also proposals to change the standards for sexual harassment claims, which are standards of severe or pervasive that were set by the courts. There's probably room for the business community to work with legislators on this, but the bills that they were pushing would remove the standards and leave it up to the courts to set the new standards. So if you're interested in being the plaintiff or the defendant on that, you get to plow new ground and pay huge lawyer fees for everybody to figure out what the new standard is and let the courts do it, which doesn't sound like a fun time when you have other things to do with your business. Paid sick and safe time, that's another thing that was passed in Minneapolis and St. Paul. So that's a mandate on pretty much on all employers to provide sick and safe time according to the dictates of the law rather than what your firms might be offering right now. There's some other proposals out there on statewide minimum wage, like the $15 minimum wage, which really wouldn't be appropriate in some areas of the state that are lower cost areas. There's a fair scheduling mandate, which one iteration of that said you got to give someone their schedule 28 days ahead of time or else there's penalties. I think even most of your employees don't know what they're going to do 28 days from now. Let's dig down on the paid family and medical leave, because this passed the House twice, once in an omnibus bill and once on its own this last session. And so this would take the place of short-term disability insurance. It would enact a payroll tax that would go up to the FICA max of $132,900 and basically raise close to $1 billion a year. In its own unique way, the state would not quite hold itself up to the same standards that it sets for insurance companies. Insurance companies would have to provide a benefit as soon as they start charging a premium, right? It's the way it works. You got to provide a product. Well, they'd collect the taxes on this for over a year before they start paying out the benefits. And those benefits would be up to 12 weeks of paid parental and family leave and 12 weeks of paid medical leave. Those could be stacked. So theoretically, you could get 24 weeks and lose an employee for 24 weeks, basically, 44% of the workdays. So they also don't know if it's priced right. The state has no experience in pricing an insurance product, which this essentially is. So it's a pretty crazy situation. Also, there's a huge IT lift. This is from the state that does not do IT issues very well. If you remember Health Match from the early 2000s, and more recently MNsures issues and MNLARs, just a disaster waiting to happen. Another dandy is the Minnesota Secure Choice Retirement Program Act. This is the state acting as the basically the administrator and the investment director for retirement plans for the private sector. Once again, putting themselves in direct competition with the private sector. Sure, they're really good investment advisors. So what's left to sell? They do the OneCare plan or Minnesota Care Buyin, whichever you choose. That takes healthcare in the fully insured market off the table. That takes dental off the table and vision off the table because they'll all be rolled in together. If you do paid family and medical leave, there goes your short-term disability. And of course, not to be outdone, they're going to try to become an investment advisor and start scooping up clients for retirement plans. So, elections. One thing I've always said is it's much easier to influence who is at the table than to try to influence the people who are at the table who aren't with you. So help those people get to the table to be the deciders rather than, just sit back and wait to see what happens and then try to influence people who are philosophically not going to help you out. And this is a big election. I'm sure you all know that. Just running down what you're going to see on the ballot. President, U.S. Senate, the seat for Tina Smith is up for election. Jason Lewis is running against her. That's neck and neck. The U.S. House of Representatives, every seat is up. That means 8 seats in Minnesota. There's 3 of them that I would term as competitive. The first congressional seat, which runs along the Iowa border in southern Minnesota, that's currently Representative Jim Hagedorn. He's running against Dan Feehan, who that's a rematch. I would imagine Hagedorn will hold on because Trump will do very well in that race. But another one that's a swing seat that extends from Mendota Heights, West St. Paul, South St. Paul, all the way south through Red Wing and I believe Owatonna. That area is Angie Craig. She's being challenged by Tyler Kistner. That's definitely on everybody's radar screen as a competitive race. And then Congressional District 7, which is Colin Peterson. That's in almost the whole western border of the state, going all the way up to Canada. Colin Peterson's chair of the Agriculture Committee, long time, they call him Blue Dog Democrat. He's pretty conservative. But again, he's in a district, a DFLer in a district that Trump will likely win handily and run up a big margin. His opponent is Michelle Fischbach, who used to be the president of the state Senate and also lieutenant governor by weird circumstances when the domino effect happened when Franken resigned and the then Governor Dayton appointed Tina Smith to that Senate seat. So let's dig in here a little further. This is a list of the state legislative retirements. It's not an unusually long list. It's very common. There's more DFLers pulling the ripcord, mostly in the House. There's a couple of them that were freshmen that served one term. They got in there and it's like, well, it wasn't quite as what I thought it would be. I'm one of 134 people, so I'm not going to do it again. Ironically, those seats they were taken from Republicans and they'll very well might go back to Republicans because there's some people who represented those areas are running again, and that particularly is the Hunter Control seat, which is Savage, I believe, Savage Burnsville area, and then Alice Man, which is a Lakeville area seat. Not a lot of turnover in the state Senate. From a historical standpoint, Paul Anderson from Plymouth decided not to run because he thought it would be too big of a battle, which it would have been. Some really interesting things on the DFL side, though, that I wanted to point out. Richard Cohen from St. Paul, seen right here, he decided not to run because former Representative Erin Murphy, who is a very progressive single payer type, she had been the House Majority Leader some years ago, and then she ran for governor. Got endorsed and then lost to Governor Walz in the primary. She decided she would run against Dick Cohen, and Dick Cohen's like a very senior member, pretty well respected DFLer. So he decided not to run. I think the handwriting was on the wall for him. Going down the list, Dr. Scott Jensen's retiring. That is a seat that would probably be held by Republicans, and so it won't be a big change, but he was very, very involved in our issues. He carried a lot of transparency bills that got into law. Going down further, okay, I think we got this page here. So we've got a House DFLer running for Senate. We've got Lori Halverson, the House Commerce Chair, retiring and running for Dakota County Commissioner. The next four are very interesting because these are 4 people who lost in DFL primaries. Representative Ray Dean, he's a progressive, no doubt about it, and wasn't progressive enough for his Minneapolis district. So he did not get endorsed, and then he lost his primary. Representative John Lesh, another case of DFL running against DFLer. He's a longtime House member. He actually had his party's endorsement and still lost the primary. So that was a big upset. Another one, Senator Jeff Hayden, progressive guy, wasn't progressive enough, was replaced. He's from Minneapolis. He pretty much wasn't with us on anything, and the next person will be even further away. He will actually be really missed by most people at the Capitol because he's a very jovial guy and always one you could sit down with and have a conversation, even though he might not end up voting with you. The next one is Eric Simonson, who is from Duluth, had first won a House seat, then went to the Senate, moved up fairly quickly, and he lost a primary and the endorsement, just got slaughtered in the primary. So it's really odd to see an incumbent go down by a huge margin like that. So expect much more progressivism from Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Duluth. So again, state Senate, it's a 2-vote margin. If the DFL is able to just take 2 seats net, they'd take the majority. They're likely to trade seats. There are seats that are Republicans are targeting that the DFL holds right now. In particular, Senator Matt Little in Farmington and Lakeville, he's a DFLer, and that's a pretty red district down there, and they're hoping to pick that up. They've got a very good candidate who is on school board. Senator Dan Sparks, who's been there a long time, he's from Austin, and he's got a tough opponent, and that's just turning into a kind of a Trump district out there. Another one that I'd point out that a lot of people are talking about because the candidate, challenger candidate is so good, is Senate Minority Leader Susan Kent from Woodbury. You wouldn't expect her to have much of a race, but the mayor of Woodbury, Mary Giuliani Stephenson, is running against her and is well known and well liked. So that's a threat there. A couple on the Republican side who people feel are going to have stiff challenges are Senator Dan Hall from Burnsville. But he's got 2 House seats that are open. The DFLers who held those seats left, and there's 2 Republican women who are running very strong races. They had been legislators before, and they are expected to take back those seats. So that would be hard to lose the Senate seat in that scenario, but it will be competitive. And then Senator Ralph in St. Cloud, he had a very tight race, won by, I think it's around 100 votes in 2016. So that's anytime you win by a thin margin, they look at you as a target the next time. But there's just interesting dynamics this year with the pandemic. You've got a lot of kids that are doing remote learning at the colleges that are in that district, and they're not going to be on campus to vote. So that makes this margin a little better. So there's, you could go pretty deep into different layers depending on how big, if it turns into a wave one way or another. Not seeing a huge wave right now, but you see the potential of trading seats between the 2 parties, but yet Republicans still could hold on. There's scenarios for both parties winning. On the House side, Republicans need to pick up 9 seats. That's certainly possible. There's a lot of seats that are, subject to waves going either way. So there's a wave that'll bring in a certain number of candidates in these districts, and then the next wave will wipe them out. And
wow.
Suburbs have gotten much, much more fickle over the years, and Minnesota is one of the Minnesota State House is apparently the one that turns over the most of any house in or legislative body in the country. So we've got that going for us. Looking at some polls here. This is from Real Clear Politics. They post a lot of polls, and I'm showing them to you, but I don't hold a lot of stock in a lot of the polls because I think you'll see why as we go through here. But in the battlegrounds, looks like Biden's ahead 3.8%, but it's a narrowing margin. There are some polls that show big margins in various races, and others, they can be very surprising. And all these are some of the battleground states. Got news for you, we're a battleground state. You'll see our polls in a second. I should have done this in a different order. I'm going to go forward one to show you the battlegrounds. Well, here we go. These are the Minnesota polls for Trump Biden. They show Biden up by a huge margin, right? Don't let that get you down, because there's another poll out there that was done by this, it's a lesser known group, but they were shown to have pretty solid polling. They do an adjustment for what's called shy Trump voters. There's a lot of Trump voters that don't want to tell anyone that they're voting for Trump. That's why he came so much closer to Hillary Clinton last time, but they don't want to tell their neighbors. They don't want to tell a pollster who they don't know who they're planning on voting for. So that shows a dead heat, and we'll go through. Pardon?
Can I add to this? So in 2016, Trafalgar Polls was the poll that I was watching, and they used to have them on Real Clear Politics. Now you got to go searching for them, but they were the only ones that had Trump winning.
Yep, that's right. And it gives me hope, because one thing I found with polls is you got to understand there's a political motivation behind them. And when people start talking about voter suppression, it's not just, some group intimidating the other side from going to the polls or saying nasty things or whatever, or trying to change polling hours. It's putting out polls that oversample one side over another, and they get the desired result, and they try to depress and make the other side think that this is over and that they've lost before it happens, so that they don't go vote. So it's a really good point. And I wouldn't give too much gravity to polls. That one, like Greg said, is much more accurate. Wanted to point out, this is the U.S. House. This is where it currently is, the margin, and there's 31 toss-ups. So you can see it could, if there was a wave, it could go our direction. Again, these are also projections and subject to political bias. So when you look at this, there are several Minnesota seats in this. They don't have all the seats in Congress listed. They're just ones that theoretically could go either way. Minnesota's 3rd congressional district, which is the western suburbs, is likely Democrat. It's held by a Democrat now. There's a good Republican candidate there, but it is a tough district. Minnesota's 2nd congressional district, that's Angie Craig. South of the cities, the southern suburbs on south, a lot of rural area in there too. Angie Craig versus Tyler Kistner, lean Democrat. That's what you'd expect. And the toss-up, this is a really interesting race. This is the Colin Peterson versus Michelle Fischbach race. Long time incumbent Colin Peterson, well-liked, no matter what party you are. He's a good guy. He's, fairly moderate to conservative Democrat. But that race, this one of the toughest opponents he's ever faced. Moving over further, there's another one, Lean's GOP. That's the first congressional district. That's along the southern border. That's Hagedorn versus Feehan. Again, Hagedorn's had some missteps, but likely to hold on just because it's going to go Trump big time there. And then let's see, Minnesota 8th Congressional District. That's newly elected Congressman Pete Stauber. I don't think anyone really thinks that's going to be much of a race. I'm going to click through these two that we've already seen. Oh, wait a minute. This is the U.S. Senate race. Shows the numbers are Tina Smith is up 8.7 right there. Again, those are averages of polls that are probably oversampling. Because if Trump's doing this, the Tina Smith, Jason Lewis race is roughly the same. It's there. If Trump wins Minnesota, expect that in a close race, the Senate race is going to be close too. Here's my favorite little chart that I made. I got to get my actuary daughter to make it into more of a parabola or something. But the point of this chart is the red shows the, I'm sorry, let's start with the blue. The blue shows the margin of loss for the Republican presidential candidate in Minnesota in the races in 2000, 2004, 8, 12, and 16. So when the Republican presidential candidate loses big, Republicans don't get to the 68 votes that they need. Sorry, it's complicated because we got two axes here. This is the number of Republicans elected to the state house. So you see the 70 line there. Just below that is 68. That's the number they need to take the majority in the House. So right there in 2000, we had basically 69, I think, and then there was 68 in 2004. So that was when Bush did pretty good and kept it within basically 3.5% of the Democrat. When it gets beyond that 3.5%, they go into this tiny minority, and they were in 08 against when McCain got just shellacked in Minnesota. There were fewer than 50 Republicans in the state house. So that's the reason why you want to watch what happens in the presidential race. It's very informative of what happens in Minnesota in the state legislative races. There's a House race every presidential race. That's why it's House and not the Senate. The Senate isn't even always on the same cycle as the president. So you could probably extrapolate that to the state Senate too. And this is just a commentary about pollsters. This was a Steve Sack Star Tribune editorial cartoon after the 2016 race, when all the pollsters had Hillary winning by a huge margin, and see the crows are hiding from the pollsters who are gonna come eat crow. So it's one of my favorite all-time Sack cartoons because I don't like most of it. What you need to know is MAHU now has a PAC. We've had a PAC for a while, but we renamed it to Minnesotans for Affordable Health Insurance because that's what we really represent. And the name is the message, and it's important for the reasons why you will see here. We have a website, so if you can pull up on another screen, pull up our website, affordablehealthinsmn.com. You will see there's a tab for endorsements. We've endorsed candidates that align with our views based on the questionnaire that we did. We also have a Twitter account, so follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook. It's always good to build a following. But the website, I just kind of want to give a shout out to some people who worked on the PAC and the website. Andy Waite, Bob Stein did a great job helping to get PayPal up and everything. Tom Wright and his team, and Sandy Beeson, everybody was working really hard to get that website up. It's more of a lift than you think. It took a lot of work. And you can donate to the PAC. I can't emphasize this enough. It's a really, really good idea to support your PAC, because we're going to financially help the candidates who will help us when they get in office. So you can do it by going on to the website. There's 2 or 3 places where you can click on it to go to the PayPal account. If you want to use snail mail and send a check, that's fine. You can do that too. That's on your screen. QR code. This is a fun thing. You can all learn a little technology if you're not familiar with how to use the QR codes. Pull out your cell phone right now, your smartphone. Open up the photo app and put that QR code on your screen, like you're taking a picture of it. It should pull up a box that you can tap, and it'll take you straight to our PayPal account. So I'm going to leave that up for a couple minutes here and let you do that, because it really is, it's a neat thing, and we're going to take advantage of that. We did this at our last MAHU in-person meeting. Sheets were on the table, and I know we got a couple of contributions off that, but it's a cool thing. It makes giving a contribution really easy. Comes right into us. We don't have to run to the bank. We just move it from PayPal over to our account. Then we can push the money out to candidates that are going to really protect your businesses and make sure you have plenty of products to sell, and we don't get wiped out like is the possibility if the election goes bad. So try that, and try pulling up the PayPal account. And heck, why don't you just even give it a donation? Just test it out. It's a really cool thing, and we could use the money. There's even an option to do it monthly if you decide, hey, I want to do 20, 25 bucks on a monthly basis. Just deduct it from my card. Just one word of caution, don't use your corporate money. It has to be an individual donation. State campaign finance laws prohibit corporate money from going into PACs or campaigns. It's more restrictive than most states, but that's what we have to do. So just use a personal credit card on that. All right, I'm going to move to the next one. This is Q&A. That's all we got. So since we're going to Q&A, I'm going to leave the QR code on there. I am opening up to any kind of questions people have. You can take yourself off mute if you have a question. Everybody's entering their credit cards, I know it.
Tim, can you walk us through the methodology on the questionnaire for who we endorsed?
Yes, if I can find I gotta grab a questionnaire. So we had 4 questions on the questionnaire. We asked them if they support the reinsurance program. We gave them, with each of these, we use the opportunity to educate the candidates. So we give them a couple of paragraphs of background on it and our argument for it, and then we ask the question. So it's just a yes/no question. The other one is, do you support OneCare or the Minnesota Care Buyin program? Yes or no? The other one talked about guaranteed issue, which we educate them that Minnesota's had it since 1976. That's more just to say, hey, it's this is something we've had. It's an educational tool. The fourth question was on paid family and medical leave, and we talk about that, and we talk about because it's really popular with the public, right? Paid family and medical leave. They like getting new benefits until they learn they have to pay for it, that it's going to come out of their paycheck. So we asked that question. If they answer with us, if they answer yes on all four, then they're up for endorsement. I can tell you there were a few that we had to do a little additional research on that said they were with us. But the reason why they opposed OneCare and the Buyin is because it didn't go far enough for them. They were single payer people. They wanted to go straight to single payer and eliminate the health industry in Minnesota. So they did not get endorsed, but the rest of them did. And you can see the list on the website of who is endorsed. And if your local candidate is not endorsed, it's probably either they answered wrong or they didn't answer. So you can call them, suggest that they fill out the form, reach out to us. We had a Survey Monkey up, and that was up for a couple weeks, but we took that down, and because we needed to close off the questionnaire for a while, just so we could push out endorsements. And now we're doing it kind of on an ad hoc basis as somebody approaches us and says, well, can I get endorsed? It's like, okay, fill out the form, send it in, and then we'll endorse. And so we're sending out a few additional ones. So that's still available. Finding this cycle is very popular. We've got a logo. By the way, thanks Tom Wright for helping us with the logo. I am not a logo person, not a marketing guy. So I really appreciate all the stuff that everybody on the team did. Other questions?
Tim, we're going to have these slides on the MAHU website, correct? So everybody can download them?
I believe we can do that for sure. The other thing is, I think this whole tape will be on the website.
I also just wanted to chime in really briefly because I had a couple of questions come up about this. That when we use that term PayPal account, it just means that that's the place where you can enter your credit card information. You don't necessarily have to be a PayPal member in order to do that, but there are credit card processing companies. So I just wanted to chime in on that. So
yes,
everyone, if you can dig deep, we'd certainly appreciate it. So
yep, absolutely. No, I see. We've gotten a couple in. I get emails when the contributions go through. So I've gotten a couple already. So keep them coming. Keep the emails. Keep the contributions going, because this is what's going to help us get through this election. Other questions? Okay. Well, I think that's it. Andy, did you have anything else to add?
Nope,
Thanks, everybody. We'll sign off now. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions later.
Thanks, Tim. Bye.
thanks, Tim. Great presentation.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.